It's just to remind people that we do have Councilors Avery and Simpson dialed in on the phone as well. And they've been given a copy of the Code of Procedural Bylaw where they're going to be speaking, if they're, when we're voting on an issue, they'll vote after everybody else in the council chambers has cast their ballots. And so then, and then if we have to go in camera, then they would have to log off and whatnot. But, so thank you, Councilor Simpson and Avery, for taking time to join us today, and thanks for the rest of the council to interrupt their summer break for this special council meeting. We have, is there any items on today's agenda that present a conflict of interest for anybody? Hearing none, we'll call that order of business dealt with. Is there anybody that cares to move the agenda with the one item on it? Councilor Holm moves the agenda as presented. Call the question, all in favor? And then Councilor Simpson?
Yep.
Councilor Avery?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and there are no minutes or any other business arising, so we'll go right into new business, item 7.1, and I'll turn the mic over to Kaylin Hastings. And make sure you let us know if you have any trouble hearing or anything, okay, Councilor Simpson and Avery?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given that administration didn't have an opportunity to provide the staff report that's before you in advance of this meeting, I am going to read through most of it verbatim. It should be in your inboxes if you wish to follow along on your computers. The report was drafted in consultation with Cam Mills, our Manager of Economic Development, Justin McPherson, our Director of Operational Services, and Kyle Beauchamp, our Director of Corporate Services. The purpose of this presentation today is twofold. First, to update Council on the status of the pool closure and the infrastructure upgrades needed to restore the pool's operations. Administration respectfully requests that Council provide direction on how to proceed with handling the repairs that are required in order to reopen the facility. Secondly, to request that Council give consideration to approving a temporary arrangement for Coaldale residents to ensure access to an outdoor pool is provided for the remainder of summer. We'll start with an update on the pool's infrastructure. By way of background, on July 13th, 2019, the mechanical system of the Coaldale swimming pool experienced a critical failure involving a crack to its filtration system. As you can see in your package on figure 2, that's what the filtration system looked like when it was identified by staff. We could just scroll down, please. Further. On your left there at figure 2. As you can see in the image to the right on figure 3, crews attempted to repair the leak in the filter with the assistance of a journeyman welder. However, when the system was turned on after the welding solution was complete, the filter expanded in a manner that called into question the structural integrity of the tank. For these reasons, alternative solutions like a bladder-type device were ruled out. After several discussions with pool repair contractors, consultants, town staff, and AHS, it was determined that the pool's mechanical system was past the point of what a temporary repair could provide. If the pool were to open again, replacement of the filtration system, which would trigger alterations to other aspects of the pool's mechanical system, would be required. So far, the following administrative decisions have been made in response to the pool closure. Coaldale lifeguards were redeployed starting on July 16th to assist town staff with other duties throughout town. Those enrolled in swimming lessons for the period of July 15th to July 29th were contacted directly in order to be advised of the pool's closure and to arrange for a refund or a potential rescheduling. Between July 13th and July 18th, staff have been working diligently to explore immediate solutions and the availability of contractors and the parts required to rebuild the town's filtration system. Throughout the process, administration has been in close contact with AHS, the regulatory authority responsible for approving any alterations to the pool's existing infrastructure. As a result of the above analysis, the soonest possible repair timeline would look as follows. 1 to 2 weeks for design and approvals, 2 to 3 weeks for ordering parts, including filters, 1 week for installation, and then 1 week to refill, test, condition the pool water. The best case scenario, if a decision were made today to proceed and all went according to plan, the pool could reopen again on August 19th, with the facility being operational until August 30th. Due to the schedule of the town's lifeguards, that being school, for example, it would be unlikely that the pool could remain open into the month of September. Given the age and condition of the pool's mechanical system, it is possible that additional areas for replacement could emerge, which could affect the above timeline. As a final point of note, the town has not been able to find a qualified contractor who is available to do this project under these time constraints at this time. Taking a step back and looking at the background of the facility, the Coaldale pool was built in 1972. It has passed the end of its useful life expectancy, with major repairs on the horizon. For the past 3 years, a frequent theme during strategic planning and budget deliberations is the extent to which funds should be set aside for Band-Aid solutions to extend the lifespan of a pool that's approaching 50 years of age. The average life expectancy from a tangible capital asset perspective for an outdoor pool like Coaldale's is 25 years. In order to receive better context for the infrastructure condition of the Coaldale pool and the corresponding costs associated with its 5-year preventative maintenance horizon, Council directed administration back in 2017 to have a building assessment performed on this facility prior to committing to any further non-safety or non-code related investments into the infrastructure. In other words, Council agreed to only approve essential upgrades as it related to safety and AHS code compliance. The full report conducted by MPE Engineering was completed in August 2017 and is attached to this report. The report conducted by MPE was primarily looking at the structural integrity of the facility, mainly due to the basement wall failure that has since been repaired. The other part of their report assessed the mechanical condition at a high level. Looking at the cost projections from MPE for all non-mechanical upgrades to the pool, was estimated to be $312,000 between 2018 and 2023. It should be noted that $25,000 was spent in 2018 to upgrade the skimmers located at the bottom of the pool. For additional clarity on the maintenance costs and the logistics involved with the pool's mechanical system, administration had a supplementary analysis conducted by Pinnacle Aquatic Group. Their full report is also attached to this brief. They recommended a budget allowance of $190,000 to $260,000 plus engineering for replacement of the town's mechanical system for its outdoor pool. While MPE Engineering declared the structural condition of the pool to be sufficient in 2017, they did estimate that we should expect to make around $312,000 in non-mechanical maintenance repairs between 2017 and 2023. In summary, between the non-skimmer maintenance upgrades identified by MPE and the mechanical replacement costs provided by Pinnacle Aquatic Group, Council could expect to spend between $450,000 to $600,000 in repairs over the next 5 years at the Coaldale pool, which is almost 1/5 the cost of what it would take to rebuild the exact same pool in the existing location. The strategic planning and budgetary conundrum faced by Council for the past number of years is, when do you stop funding non-safety related infrastructure costs in a facility that is almost 50 years old, and when do you start directing funds to something new? The future of the Coaldale pool as it stands now is at a critical crossroads. To be open again in either 2019 or 2020, it will require at least $190,000 plus engineering to adequately address its mechanical failure. While the long-term decision of what to do with the existing pool can be made at another day, direction on how to proceed for the remainder of the 2019 season is needed at this meeting. Whichever direction Council decides for 2019, it is suggested that community engagement efforts be undertaken to help determine the long-term course of action for a pool in Coaldale. So that concludes part 1 of this report. Before fielding any questions, do I have permission to finish the delivery of part 2 so that all the information's on the table?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. As an interim measure, the town has investigated the possibility of creating a shuttle service, thanks in large part to Palliser School Division's willingness to provide use of a bus, to provide residents of Coaldale, including youth, with access to one of several nearby pool facilities. Of the available options, the facility at the village of Sterling appears to be the best fit in terms of available space for Coaldale residents, ease of access, size of facility, and their willingness to accommodate a regular service on short notice. If we could just scroll down, we've included a picture of the Sterling pool as well as a map that shows the driving distance from Coaldale to Sterling. So it is about 23 minutes, similar to what it would be to some of the pools in Lethbridge and Tabor. Administration believes that Sterling is an ideal location for temporary accommodation for the following reasons. The pool is outdoors, matching in many respects the experience of Coaldale's facility. There's ample room to accommodate Coaldale residents. There should be no issues with arriving at the facility and failing to gain access or waiting in line, for example. The cost of access is approximately the same as Coaldale's, $5 a day for children's age 5 to 17. Both the village administration and pool staff are aware of the situation and are happy to accommodate us. We sent a couple staff members on a field trip to have a look at their pool and to meet with the village officials, and they were quite accommodating and willing to help us in whatever way. The facility for Sterling is open for public swimming Monday to Friday from 1 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. Sterling has seen similar increases in visits from other municipalities in the past. For example, during the construction of Henderson, they saw a large spike in attendance from Lethbridge at their pool. Based on preliminary conversations with village officials, it would be reasonable to provide the following approximate level of service to residents should council see merit in this proposal. We would be able to provide a limited shuttle service with the potential allowance for accompanying adults during weekdays. A shuttle could depart from the Coaldale Pool parking lot at 1 p.m. and depart from Sterling back to Coaldale at 4 p.m. This would give those on the shuttle approximately 2.5 hours of pool use Monday to Friday, and would have them back in Coaldale at 4:30, at which point they could return home. Ideally, the shuttle would remain at the Sterling pool during the trip and would be available to return to Coaldale early in the event of inclement weather. Shuttle users would pay to access the Sterling facility the same way that they would pay to access the facility in Coaldale. Entry to the facility itself would be the responsibility of individual users. In this sense, the town would not subsidize access for individual users. In the event that a child arrives at the pool and doesn't have the means to pay for entry, the village indicated that they would grant access, and we would draft up a bit of an IOU. From a supervisory perspective, Coaldale would use existing lifeguard staff to chaperone the shuttle service. Through a buddy/small group pairing system, the Coaldale lifeguards would be responsible for maintaining attendance of users of the shuttle and for ensuring that no one is left behind when the shuttle departs. They would also remain with their small groups at the Sterling pool. Lifeguards would have access to a telephone to contact parents in the event of an emergency. Looking at the cost implications of the pool closure and the interim solution, after all refunds take place, the estimated revenue lost as a result of the pool closure is $45,224, which is 66% of the budgeted revenue for the year. This includes refunds issued for season passes that'll be prorated and based on the day the pass was purchased, swimming lessons, and lost revenue from drop-in fees. The offset is that there will be savings in the town's expenses column that would have otherwise incurred if the pool remained operational for the full summer. However, additional expenses were incurred in order to deal with the initial leak issue. As of today, all pool staff have been redeployed to help in the Parks Department. Should this shuttle program be approved by council, the existing guards would be made available to chaperone, guard, and assist with the bus trips to Sterling. Because there is a plan in place for reallocation of staff resources, no cost savings from employee wages are expected, nor were they factored into the budgetary forecast calculations ranged below. The net effect of the pool's closure on the budget, combined with the proposed interim shuttle solution to the village of Sterling, has been calculated as follows. On the high end, this would add $40,000 to the current budgeted pool deficit for 2019, and on the low end, $24,730 over the 2019 budgeted deficit of the pool. It should be noted, however, that $15,000 has been budgeted for the pool capital reserve for 2019. Should council see merit, this $15,000 could be used to help offset the additional operational deficit range identified above, reducing the initial net deficit increase to between 25,693 to 9,780. The remaining balance would have to come from unbudgeted general reserve at the end of the town's fiscal year. In terms of refunds, administration is comfortable calculating the amounts each person would receive for a refund, as the registration records are kept well in order. The first round of refunds for canceled swimming lessons for the week of July 15th are currently being processed and are expected to be available on Monday, July 22nd. Staff are currently processing the remainder of the refunds requested and are expected to be completed for July 26th. If the decision is made to close the pool for the year, the refunds would be available for pickup by check at the town office. Any refunds not picked up within 4 weeks would be mailed out. As a result of the foregoing, we have identified two main options for council on terms of how to proceed today. Option 1 is that council direct administration to undertake all efforts to get the Coaldale pool operational in 2019, up to a budget maximum of $300,000. Option 2, that council resolve to not reopen the pool again in 2019 and to defer discussion on the long-term future of Coaldale's existing pool to a later date and after a series of community consultation sessions. Further, the council direct administration to proceed with implementing the shuttle program from Coaldale to Sterling, utilizing the assistance of the town's lifeguards. In looking at the totality of the information available, and the fact that even if the pool were to open again for 2019, it would only be for 2 weeks. For these reasons, administration is recommending option 2. And that concludes the presentation of our report.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over for questions from council. Is there any questions from councilors in chambers? Are there any questions from the councilors on the telephone line? Jason, Brianne?
No, I've got no questions.
I have no questions either.
Okay. Councilor Chapman?
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and thank you, Kaylin, and your administration for such diligence in this report, and it's very comprehensive. I think that we will need some more time to review and analyze and assess what our next steps will be. 2 weeks is not much time for us all to work with. I do have a question from a resident that approached me yesterday with regards to a season. Actually, it was a pass or a winnings that they got at a function. They bid on an item at the Ducks Unlimited supper, and so it was one of our passes for a family pass to the pool. So I would suggest that you include that in your assessment and what you would like to do with that. The time that they booked the pool for is August 25th. So it is a family gathering that they're utilizing the pool for.
Go ahead, Kaylin.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. If after the meeting we could get the name of the resident you spoke with, we'd be happy to follow up with them to ensure that arrangements are made.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Holm?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering, did you talk to the town of Tabor? It just seems like it's a little different little facility because it's indoors and we won't have to worry about all of a sudden a lightning storm come up, and wondering how to drop kids off and their parents are aware and stuff like that. And it just seems to me like it might be at least as good a solution or better.
Yeah, through to Councillor Holm. That's a great question. To my knowledge, and I can ask Mr. Mills for a little bit of help, but it's summer, it's nice out. We were trying to keep the outdoor theme. Kids spend a lot of time inside, so we wanted to look at as a primary option, an outdoor option. But Tabor was certainly part of the brainstorming process, and I can redirect it to Cam from there.
We're looking at the shuttle option, realistically speaking. Tabor, Raymond, Sterling, options in Lethbridge are all potential opportunities for this types of service. When we looked at it, we said, the pool in Sterling most closely matches the experience that you're getting. In Coaldale here, I know myself, I'm a parent of 3 children. While I enjoy indoor pool facilities, for my personal experience, I prefer an outdoor type of facility in the summer. That's where I want to take my kids. For this type of use. There's also the issue of, whether or not things are busy and whether or not they can be accommodated. So we can certainly explore other municipal options. When we looked at a place like Raymond, for example, it's a little bit further. It's a little bit more full. There's the risk of potentially not being able to get, say, 40 kids into the facility. Lethbridge obviously has some opportunities, tend to be a little more expensive, and there's the busyness factor there as well. So we're operating under a very short timeline here, right? So this was put together, fundamentally in a matter of 24 hours. So Sterling's the option we decided to put our resources behind. But yeah.
Go ahead, Kaylin.
And just to add to that, we could always, arrangements have been discussed in principle with Sterling, and if the desire of council would be to add some variety, that type of variety could be tacked on to the latter stages of the offering of this program. We wanted to make sure that before we came up with this idea and discussed it with council, that we had at least talked with one viable option that it had already given their approval in principle, so that if this is something council wanted to pursue, at least you got at least one lined up and ready to go. We can continue to look at a couple of other options if council wanted some variety too. The other part, it's by keeping it simple. Parents know what time the bus leaves and what time it gets back every day, and they always know when it leaves it's going to, say, Sterling. One potential risk of adding a couple of different pools is that their open swim times might be at different times and different days. So in the event that a parent needs to go pick up their child, they might think it's at Sterling when it's at Tabor. So kind of keeping it simple for the purpose of clarity was another consideration, but these are all solvable issues as well.
Councilor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and maybe through, again, to Cam, if I may, just to follow up on Councillor Holmes' thoughts. Town of Coaldale has an evening swim as well. I think it's a public swim. Would that be addressed as well? I see on your schedule that it'd be 1 to 5:15 p.m. in the afternoons for those that would be doing evening swims. Do you have a suggestion for that?
No, not off the top of my head. The way we looked at it was simply this, to reiterate Kaylin's point. This is a situation where we're trying to come up with a temporary solution while we get more of a long-term plan in place for sort of long-term swimming for our residents. What's available in Sterling is they're open Monday to Saturday. They have open swim times. The reality is that Coaldale residents can drive to Sterling today to use the pool. What we're really talking about is operating a bus. And from our perspective, what makes sense here is to be consistent and simple. So while I'm sure Coaldale residents right now like the opportunity for an evening swim, they would still have an opportunity for an evening swim. They would just have to, not rely on the town to get them there.
So what I'm hearing is that the bus might accommodate 40 swimmers, or what number of swimmers would that take up, and then how many would that leave left out of the ability to, normally occupy the pool during those hours?
Right. So with the Village of Sterling, this is a conversation that we had, and first of all, let me just take it aside to say that we really need to give some credit to both the administration and as well as the mayor of Sterling. Were very accommodating and helpful, so we really appreciate that. They indicated that they definitely have capacity. We threw out some numbers, and from their perspective, accommodating an additional 40 children plus potentially some accompanying adults was perfectly manageable. One of the things we want to make sure we don't do is have kids or anyone get on the bus to go somewhere and then get there and then have to wait in line for 30 minutes to get entry. So from their perspective, with these numbers, we know we could do that. It could be full. We could get there. We know everyone's going to get in. There's no issues about overcapacity or things like that. Their facility can definitely manage that. So that seems to be like a number that would work.
So for clarity, the bus leaving Coaldale carries 40 children, is that right? Or more or less, or what number?
The bus that Palliser indicated that they could supply us can fit 70
Oh, okay.
passengers,
Okay.
which would include parents as well as children.
Okay. All right. Then just for the estimated repair time, I mean, that was just, if everything goes well, we might be able to reopen August 19th, or can you kind of quantify that? Like, is that the very, if every Jupiter aligns with Mars kind of a scenario, and how likely is that? Or, like, it seems that it might be likely that we do all this reaction to trying to get the pool up, and we could end up being frustrated and actually not being able to open the pool until the end of August or some other time too, right?
Yeah, for
Go
sure.
ahead.
The timeline that was provided in the report was a best case scenario, and that's if everything lines up perfectly. One of the difficulties we have right now is actually finding a qualified contractor that is available. We have yet to even find one who can do that in that time. That timeline I just laid out as a best case scenario if we had a contractor lined up, if we had the parts lined up, and we have neither of those things lined up at this time. So.
Councillor Home?
Your worship again. I'm not really in favor of dumping another $300,000 or $400,000 into the pool for a short-term fix. I would certainly be in favor of making sure that we can get our citizens to another pool, be it Sterling or Tabor, one or the other. I would pick one and just go with only one. Wouldn't give them an option. But to put another, the best case scenario is $300,000 that we'd have to spend in the next 3 weeks, and it could actually be $400,000 or $500,000 by the time we really go through the mechanical system, in my mind, and get it right. So I'm not in favor of spending that kind of money for a 2 or a 3 year fix. I think my direction would be to get the kids to other swimming pools at this time and have a detailed report on how much it would cost to completely replace the existing facility and move forward from there. And if that means we have to bus kids to another facility even in 2020 while we build something new or we make arrangements for something new, then I would be in favor of that.
I have one question.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Simpson.
How quickly could this shuttle bus be in service?
Go ahead, Cam, or... Okay, then go ahead. Don't fight.
Okay. Cam's going to let me answer the question. Thank you, Councillor Simpson. In discussing with Palliser and our pool manager and shift supervisors, we wanted to be very conscious of logistics. So July 29th, I just want to check my calendar to make sure that's the correct Monday. Yeah, so Monday, July 29th is when we are confident that we could commence this service. Palliser indicated that's the date that the bus could easily be made available. And then the lifeguards indicated that that would be enough time for them so that we could create a new shift schedule for them. And then they could create a written procedure, sign up, logistics, advertising so that people are aware of this service. Would be Monday, July 29th.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Simpson?
It does. I just wish it could be a little bit sooner, but if that's the quickest time around, then yeah. The other suggestion I was thinking is, what if we did, for the night swims, if Tabor would let us do a coupon, that they would still have to drive there themselves, but at least they would have a coupon for admission during the nighttime swim.
Go ahead, Kalen.
Yeah, that's an excellent suggestion. That would be something that we'd have to look into. If council wishes, they could add that on to amend to the motion, and then we could look into that. We just need a little bit of direction on what the parameters would be, so that we don't have to call another special council meeting to approve what that program might look like. So we're open to that. It'll take a bit of time to look into, but we'd need some guidance on where the boundaries are of what a program like that might look like.
Well, I'm
Your
supportive.
Your Worship, I got one question.
Sure, Councilor Avery.
Thank you. So did we look at talking with the city or possibly a hotel in the city so you could run a shuttle every hour to continue your swimming lessons that way, and kids wouldn't then be at a pool for 4 or 6 hours? Like, to me, when we've got amenities 11 kilometers away, we need to best utilize those and best serve our citizens with those. And to drive them to Sterling or even to Tabor, which I like the Tabor idea because then you don't have to worry about the weather, but there's some hotels with nice pools in them in the city, then our lifeguards are actually getting paid to do their swimming lessons rather than babysit going to another pool where there's already lifeguards on duty.
Go ahead, Kalen.
Yeah, to answer Councillor Avery's questions, we have not looked at pools within hotel facilities. We could do that. It would have to take place after this meeting. In terms of the lifeguards, the purpose of having them on board is so that children, minors would be able to attend without having a parent or guardian there. The lifeguards would be in the place of the parent or guardian. And speaking with our community services department, there's a lot of children that walk or ride their bikes to the Coaldale pool on their own without parents. You start getting them onto a bus, you would need a parental permission form, but if it's during a work day when parents may be working, for example, the idea would be that you would have lifeguards who would serve in small groups to ensure that all of the children who aren't accompanied by adults would be accounted for. So how it's been structured now, looking at the budget, the labor allocation, the guards would maintain all of the existing hours that they had currently. In the morning, they would work in parks, and then in the afternoon, the field trip to Sterling would comprise their afternoon shift, so that they would still maintain all of the work hours that they would have had should the Coaldale pool been open for the whole season. So just to kind of round out and clarify some of the thought process behind the labor utilization of the town's lifeguards.
You have a subsequent question or follow-up, Councilor Avery?
No, I just feel that their time could be better utilized than babysitting on a bus. And you could hire somebody to supervise. Maybe one of the parents who even wants to work for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, however long the program goes for. Your lifeguards were hired to do a specific job. They've got specific training to do that job, and I think we should utilize them at that position. If we have to add another position on as a bus monitor, we put a bus monitor on there, and once they're in that swimming facility, the lifeguards are still doing their job that they're doing right now. They're lifeguarding, and they're doing swimming lessons.
Okay, so what I'm kind of getting a sense is that we can't engage the out-of-town option until the 29th from what I'm hearing. Is that right?
In all likelihood, we could probably get up and going a few days earlier, but we want to make sure that whatever program is selected by council, it gets thought through and then properly advertised. Anytime you rush, you run the risk of missing a couple logistical steps. So we can shave a few days, but not a whole lot more than a few days.
because my thought process is that I was thinking that we could give direction that I think we have to make a definitive stand on what we're gonna do with the pool, and I'm supportive of not reopening, with so many questions unanswered. I mean, that 300,000 doesn't even include the engineering for the project, and, you could need another widget or a gizmo that we're not even contemplating, so, I mean, that number could go up just for a knee-jerk reaction to try and save. I mean, I think I don't want to underestimate the importance of having a pool open in Coaldale, and that's not the intent at all. But on behalf of taxpayers of Coaldale, I don't see that we're serving any purpose by throwing, a Band-Aid on something that might need a lot more substantial thought than that. But I was thinking that we could give this direction and then, in principle, approve the idea of the shuttle service and whatnot. And then maybe, because we do have a council meeting scheduled for the 29th, we could maybe get more details around that, because there was lots of good feedback and discussion today around other options and other types of services, and we could maybe add that to the report on the 29th of July, so that we have, but give you the direction to, I think the way the motion's structured does give you that flexibility, and then you could bring a report back to the 29th meeting. That'd be my kind of direction. Councillor Holm?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Again, I would like to propose option 2, but the second part, that further the council direct administration to proceed with implementing the shuttle program from Coaldale to an outside site, utilizing the assistance of town lifeguards, and that this proceed as quickly as possible, and administration make the decision on the location that we're going to be transporting our citizens. That way we can pass this motion now, and if at all possible, the administration can look at Tabor, can look at the hotels, we've already talked to Sterling, and they can make the decision as to which facility we go to, and we implement it just as quickly as possible. And if that means we can implement it by next Tuesday or Wednesday, that would be even better with me.
So
Councillor Holm, I was wondering if you would amend it with the option of maybe like a coupon also available, that if people are driving themselves to that location.
I don't want to, only because we will be charging people the $5 or whatever to get into the swimming pool anyways, at whichever location we pick. And by utilizing a coupon, I don't know whether that's actually giving the coupon people a benefit rather than taking the transportation that the town is already going to be subsidizing.
But if they had a swim pass, would they be able to, with your motion, be able to get in for free if they drive themselves without busing?
I think the intent is to refund all the swim pass money. So,
Okay.
Councillor, does that satisfy you, Councillor Simpson?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Chapman, you're...
Thank you, Worship. It doesn't really change the motion, but the question I do have is our residents have been informed to what extent that the pool has been closed, effective immediately until further notice. I think because there's really two positions here. One is, the repairs on the pool, but really right now we're talking about our citizens in Coaldale and how quickly can they be, how soon can they start transporting their own kids to a pool of their choice or to Sterling until we get this shuttle service up and running on the 29th, I think is kind of the start date. But what can parents and families do today?
Go ahead.
Just through to Councillor Chapman, in terms of notification and keeping people up to date on events, until today, we've had social media postings. It's been on our website. After the decision of council this evening, the intent would be to send out a media release so that the media can help us get the information out to the community. We would look at some of our own information distribution, newspaper, website, social media, but by including the media on whatever direction is that council determines this evening, that'll help us fan the information out as quickly as possible. And then we can craft the advertisement and the awareness campaign to let people know through various communication mediums on what program is coming down the pipe, what it's going to look like, what some of the details are, how do you pre-register. Between now and the time that happens, people are going to have to look after their own transportation. That's why we're trying to come up with a solution as quick as possible, because if those kids who can't drive, their parents are working, then this is an option for them to still get some nice sun when there's still a lot of summer left.
Councillor White?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I would be in favor of the motion. I just have one question. How much is it actually used? How many kids are there in an afternoon? Would 70 even cover that? Would there be more that would want to go?
Go ahead.
We're not exactly sure what the interest or uptake will be. We, for example, have just over 200 season swim passes. We'd have to get the exact metrics for the lifeguards in terms of how many, they do track usage according to swim time. This would be during what's called the non-prime swim time, middle of the day on a weekday, not evening or a weekend. We'll have to see. It's possible that we have a good news situation where one bus isn't enough. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but we were going to take it one step at a time to have a look to see what the uptake is before perhaps overbooking infrastructure for this pilot program. So to answer your question, we're not sure yet. Based on some of the trends, 70 would be a good first step.
So any more questions about Councillor Holmes' motion then? Lena, do you have it captured there or not?
I've got it.
Okay, Kaylin, can you read it back just so we're sure, if you don't mind?
So on behalf of Councillor Holm, that council resolved to not reopen the Coaldale outdoor pool again in 2019 and to defer discussion on the long-term future of Coaldale's existing pool to a later date, but after a series of community consultation sessions. Further, that council direct administration to proceed with implementing the shuttle program from Coaldale to an external site, utilizing the assistance of the town's lifeguards as quickly as possible.
Okay. So that's the motion. Any further discussion? Councillor Simpson or Avery, any further last minute discussion?
Nothing.
Nothing for me either.
Okay, thank you. With that in mind, I'll call the question. All in favor? So the members of council, the 5 members of council have all voted affirmatively, and now Councillor Simpson and Avery?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. So then, and I think the thing, obviously, I want to thank administration for, they put a lot of time and effort into trying to address unknown question. There was probably a lot of hope and optimism that there'd be a cheap solution, that could make it, readily available to repair the pool and get it back and running. And so I think that added, a little bit of delay to probably formalizing other things. So I think you did a good job in trying to craft a solution. I think that, over the next few days, maybe community feedback might come into play, and I think July 29th might be another opportunity if we have to reopen any modifications or adjustments that this program might require and whatnot. But I think for now it really puts a little bit of a answers a bit of a question so we can move forward, and with regret, the disappointment that a lot of families will have for not having full access to the pool to begin with. But I think tried to make the best out of a bad situation. So thank you very much for doing that. Is there any, Councillor Simpson or Avery, do you have anything to add before we move on?
Nothing to add.
Okay.
Nothing for me either.
Okay, thank you. All right, so being that, we've covered the agenda, so we will entertain a motion to adjourn. Counselor Lloyd? Counselor Lloyd makes a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Yes.
And Brianne?
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much for taking time, Brianne and Jason. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you.
day.